Deuteronomy 23 continues outlining how Israel is to live as a holy and just community, even in the small and difficult areas of life. It covers who can be part of the assembly, camp cleanliness, compassion for the vulnerable, and economic integrity. Okay, we're going to separate this chapter into 7 different parts, and the first one has this title: Who may enter the assembly, which encompasses verses 1 to 8. Some people were excluded from full participation in the assembly of the Lord, likely official gatherings of leadership rules, not salvation, okay? Verse 1, men with crushed genitals shows reference for holiness in God's design, okay? Verses 2 to 3, children born from forbidden unions like incest or pagan worship, and Ammonites or Moabites up to the 10th generation, okay? Because they refused to help Israel and try to curse them, okay? Check Numbers verses 22 to 24. So, sorry, chapter 22 to 24, right? So, exceptions. Edomites and Egyptians may, after the 3rd generation, because of historical ties, even Egypt sheltered Israel early on, right? So, lesson: God's people must be remembered who help or harm them, and treat outsiders with both discernment and fairness, right? So, the second part of this chapter talks about cleanliness in the camp, verses 9 to 14. God's presence in the military camp demands physical and spiritual cleanliness. Sorry. Anyone who becomes unclean, example for bodily emission, must stay outside a camp until purified. Dig latrines outside a camp and cover waste. A very practical hygiene command, okay? For the Lord your God moves about in your camp. Your camp must be holy. Lesson: even bodily functions matter in a holy community. God's presence requires respect, order, and purity, right? Third part of this chapter: protect escaped slaves, verses 15 to 20 to 16. If a slave escapes from his master and comes to Israel, do not send him back. Let him live among you wherever he chooses. Okay, this likely refers to foreign slaves escaping abuse, a radical command for ancient times. Lesson: God's people protect the vulnerable, even outsiders, right? So the fourth part of this chapter is no shrine prostitution, verses 17 to 18. No Israelite man or woman is to become a shrine prostitute. And do not bring the earnings of a prostitute into the house of the Lord. This was a common in pagan religion, but God detests it. Holiness cannot be mixed with exploitation or sexual immorality. Part 5, okay, fifth part of the chapter: honest lending and vows, which encompasses verses 19 to 23. Do not charge interest or loans. Do not charge interest on loans to fellow Israelites, okay? You may charge foreigners interest, but not your own people. Keep your vows to God quickly and honestly. But if you don't make a vow, you're not guilty. Lessons: God expects integrity in money and promises. Generosity and honesty reflect his character. Sixth part of this chapter: fair use of neighborhoods field, verses 24 to 25. Okay, verses 24 to 25. You may eat grapes from your neighbor's vineyard. You may eat grapes from your neighbor's vineyard, but don't take any with you. You may pluck grain by hand, but not with a sickle. This allows snacking but not stealing. A balance between generosity and property rights. Lesson: God's economy allows for both kindness and boundaries. Right? Seventh part. Seventh part of this chapter, which actually is the themes and lessons from Deuteronomy 23. First lesson: God's presence demands purity. Physical and spiritual cleanliness are both important, right? Second lesson of this chapter: justice extends to the margins. From runaway slaves to debtors, God defends the weak, okay? Third lesson: holiness means no mixing with pagan immorality. Worship must be free from exploitation or corruption. Fourth lesson, God takes vows and promises seriously. Integrity is not optimal, it defines character. Fifth lesson, compassion doesn't mean chaos. Sharing is allowed, but respect for property remains. Okay, so Deuteronomy 23 shows that holiness. Deuteronomy 23 shows that holiness isn't just about worship, it's about justice, compassion, hygiene, and integrity. Okay, God's people must be different in how they live, land, promise, protect, and share. Okay, and I want to ask you this, please. This channel is starting right now, and it is unfortunately a piece of shit. So, subscribe if you want to see me continue doing this work.